I was just about ready to start talking, and then all of a sudden my dog decided that he needed to be very chatty and lick my foot while I am trying to say hello.
Sidetrack.
So, that's one heck of an introduction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
assaulted by a Labrador puppy while we're trying to do a very serious interview. I don't do serious well. So I've been really excited to talk to you because you came to me with an irresistible get me on your show now, which is there is a procedure that's being done
Yeah.
and it has some real world consequences which aren't being talked about. So if I understand correctly, you got a brain injury from having transcranial. Sorry, I have to like read this
No,
because
go for it. It's long.
I seem to have like 3 brain cells and none of them remember a thing except for like what happened on Love Island. And I don't know why that's all it can remember. It seems to be it. Um, transcranial magnetic stimulation, which I had never heard of until I got your message. So if you could first explain what that procedure actually is and what it's supposed to be used for, and then why it got used on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, it is also known as like TMS. There's several different kinds. There's deep TMS, repetitive TMS. But basically, the idea behind it is they put a magnet up to your head and it is then stimulated through electricity to basically wake up dormant areas in the brain. That is what the science is believed to do. When I had a talk therapist, and originally I was going through EMDR, and then that therapist retired so she could be a stay-at-home mom, and I saw a new one, and she recommended, because I had this like cycle of a little bit more like lower energy at times, she recommended I see a psychiatrist, and I had no idea about the psychiatry world at all. And I instantly walked in to the psychiatrist's office who was administering TMS. And my original purpose was in going there, I just wanted to learn. I wanted to better myself, my mental health and things. But I also did not want to do drug therapy at all. I'm very, very, very sensitive to it. So she sat me down, did a 2-hour intake, which I thought was lovely. I mean, who sits down in the medical community for 2 hours? But the first procedure and the first recommendation to me was TMS. And she said that my symptoms of being a light sleeper, my low energy at times was due to an overactive amygdala. And this procedure would help me stimulate the dormant areas of my brain because my amygdala had taken over. And I should do it because she had worked on, military folks and a bunch of people, and it was 83% effective, zero systemic side effects. She handed me a marketing brochure and said, I'm going to put this in to insurance and we'll get approved in a couple weeks and we'll start rolling. And that was kind of it. It was an absolute whirlwind. But the original
Just to be
purpose,
clear,
yeah.
because I'm just kind of gobsmacked. I have a lot of experience in the psychology world. Just to be clear, your symptoms were lower energy sometimes and light sleeping.
Correct. And the funny thing is I was actually training for a marathon. So I would say low energy for me was not, I mean, it's kind of understandable, I guess. I was working multiple jobs, training for a
Yeah, they didn't
marathon,
talk to you
dog
about your
mom.
lifestyle or like
Nope.
other, like they didn't look into other things. It could be like, are you on new birth control? Are you like
Yeah.
experiencing new food or like, I'm sorry, I'm just a little gobsmacked. Like
No,
that just feels like
absolutely.
such an extreme jump from, hey, like this is a normal thing that like I think if you talk to any grown adult, they'd be like, yeah, I'm not sleeping well.
Yeah,
Especially in this day and age. Like my pain clinic is like, are you feeling stressed? I'm like, I don't know. Did you read the news? Yeah, I'm
of
stressed. What
course.
the fuck?
Yeah, right.
So
No,
I'm
I
so
mean,
sorry because like I thought that maybe you were experiencing like way more intense, like life altering symptoms that could definitely be psychological, but you're telling me like these symptoms that could be anything from perimenopause to
any
just
any
existing in this world.
yes, anybody could experience it, at least the clinic that I walked into. It is approved for, or I should say cleared, because I've since gone down the rabbit hole of FDA clearance for approval, and it got through the first device called Neurostar through Neuronetics got approved through the de novo process. And then all the others came in after, called the 510K loophole, which basically they jumped on the bandwagon of any device that was similar before, I think it's 1968. But anyways, they all jumped on the bandwagon and they said that they were similar to ECT, but then they are also similar to this brain stimulation device that was more for like, if you think about like going to your PT and you have the little vibrations on your muscles. That's kind of the device that they had talked about. And the science behind it, it just goes through so much. But at a high level, wave tops, that's kind of what I've learned. So you were 1,000% right. Like it was cleared for certain things, but the off-label use is insane and it's absolutely heartbreaking. And my story is not the only one. I belong to a support group of over 5,000 members that a friend of mine created, which I wish I found before I started, but he created it back in 2018, I believe. And it just, the stories are never ending.
So you went to a regular talking therapist about some issues you might have been having.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've been referred to psychiatry, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. Psychiatrists are actual doctors. They can prescribe things. They can do like they are real doctors, and it's very different than a therapist. And now they've prescribed you something which, just in my little brain, I'm thinking this sounds Victorian. Like this sounds like the stuff they did to Rosemary Kennedy. Like this sounds
Oh my gosh, yes.
this sounds like something from like way, way back when, that when we talk about psychiatry now, we're like, aren't you glad we don't live then? Like it feels so. And I've had friends and people in my life who have had shock therapy for depression, but they weren't experiencing what you're talking about. They were having teeth raw out of their face because they couldn't get to like brush their teeth. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
different thing than what you're talking about. So you went in being told there's no side effects. This is 80% effective. We're going to do this off-label use. What was your experience like when you went in? What was the physical sensations of it? What do they like? Is it like electrodes? Is like an EKG, like not an EKG. I'm so sorry. I've had way too many medical tests, but like they do those little, like for the epilepsy test, they put those little strobes
Yeah.
on. What did they do to you for this?
Thank you for bringing me back to like the story. So again, I was training for a marathon. I remember walking in super giddy because I was excited about improving my mental health, getting back to better myself essentially. And I walked in jovial, making jokes. We sat down on the machine and I was about to leave on a trip and I was about to run a marathon in 6 days. So my request was to simply do the mapping session and then start treatment when I got back, because it was recommended to do 56 sessions as close as you can within basically a 6-week period. You do five a day, and they're 19 minute sessions each.
Let's do a real quick discussion here,
Yeah.
real fast.
Yeah.
You live in the US with me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What was the cost on this?
Insurance covered it. However, in my understanding, it can go anywhere from 5 to 30,000, and it really just depends on how many treatments you do. And people are, selling cars in order to do it. And based
Yeah.
on what I've read on Reddit and connected with people, it's
Sorry, I
insane.
just need to throw this in here because as we're
Please.
talking about like why things are done, I always think follow the money first. And that feels like a huge red flag to me when they're like, you need to do this insane amount for this many. Like that's a very, like, why would they do an off-label thing and tell you there's no side effects? And that feels like at least the start of an answer to me.
Yes, you're 1,000,000% right. And that's kind of what everybody in the support group that has focused on healing, that's the answers we're trying to get. But you are right. Follow the money. And things I wish I knew 2 years ago to do, I went in with complete blind faith and blind trust. And I wanted to be a better partner, a better person, and a better future mother. And that's kind of what the psychiatrist sold me as. But yeah, so
That whole like mentality of like the wellness industry makes us so vulnerable because we're always told that it's up to us to do better and be better. And like, no matter how good we are, we can always see that that horizon line keeps getting further and further away and more expensive. And
yes.
like, I just really feel for you when you're talking about this. I feel so much for you. I'm so sorry. I totally
Thank you.
derailed you from like what the actual experience was like.
That's okay.
I'm very
Yeah,
good at
so
derailing. I am brilliant at derailing.
No, I love it. I mean, it not only you're keeping me on track too by bringing me back, but I love
You
to
are
go
the
on little
first person
tangents. So
ever in the history of the world to tell me that I put them on track. It never happens.
I'm a little bit of wordy, and then I tend to go on tangents. So this is beautiful. It balances me back and forth,
You and
and
me
it
both.
drives. It's great.
No worries. We'll run back to what the experience was like. So you go in, you're told you need to do this insane. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, your insurance decided to cover it, but that
Hmm.
company is still getting paid, and they
Correct.
want you to come in a whole lot with very little recovery time. That's almost like hours of recovery time, like days.
Yeah, so basically how I scheduled my sessions, I would have 24 hours. It was every day at 3, and you would have the weekends off because the clinic was closed. So the first session, it was a mapping session, and basically they put a piece of tape across my forehead. I'm in kind of a dental chair, but it's upright, very stiff. My arms are on 2 cushion pads, and they have a little same thing, like little Velcro over it, because they brought this like wand around and placed it on the side of my head. And it kind of looked like one of those old timey 90s, very thick. And that was where they would send the stimulation. So they would turn the machine on, and it was a huge machine, and it sended like electromagnetic wavelengths into my brain. And the mapping session, originally they start at the motor cortex line, basically as a headband from ear to ear, and then they find where my opposite thumb moves. And once they find that movement, then they move 5 centimeters forward, and from there they're targeting my amygdala. Well, unfortunately for me, and I didn't know this, but during that mapping session, they never found my thumb. They only found my ring finger. It was the only movement I had. So I don't know brain wise how far 3 fingers are essentially, but they tried it twice. It was excruciating. It felt like a rubber band snap, but like jolting, like a woodpecker kind of consistency. And then they did the mapping session twice. The psychiatrist said, well, I'm comfortable moving forward. Let's just move 5 centimeters forward. So they didn't respect the boundary that I set of I have a race and I'm about to travel 3,000 miles to go visit family. I haven't seen them in 4 years. I want to do that before I start. They talked me into starting right away, saying, oh, you'll be fine for a week. You can run your race. You're good. So we started. I said, okay. Definitely felt pressured. And the first zap felt like Thor's hammer slamming down on an ice pick. My eyes welled up. They got huge, and I gritted my teeth. And I couldn't move. I still have that, paper. It's paper. I definitely could bust through it, but it felt like I was contained in this chair. And I endured 19 minutes. At the halfway point, the psychiatrist said, hey, how are you feeling? And of course, I'm very wordy. So I'm describing how I have a high pain tolerance. And she's like, no, 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 just give me a number. I'm like, an 8 or a 9 out of 10. And she's like, okay, well, we'll keep going. I wish somebody in that room would have said, that's ridiculous. A 10 out of 10 is hospital level. Tears were streaming down. I was biting my tongue to anything to distract me from the pain here. I tried to inflict pain somewhere else. It was unimaginable, and I did 2 more sessions back-to-back days after that.
For anyone who would wonder why you would do that, I just want to explain to you, you have never been chronically ill and trusted a doctor, because the amount they've been able to convince me of like, this giant needle going into your knee is going to make you feel so much better. This device we're going to implant into your spine, you'll feel so much better. Trust, we're ready to try anything. So
Yeah.
don't judge until you've done this. Oh my God. Okay. So you go back in. I'm so sorry. I read the comments and I really shouldn't. They'd make me so much happier if I didn't. But I totally understand why you would go back.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate you chiming in.
no, I feel so like, I don't know if you could, I have no like facial filters. So if you guys want to go over and watch this on YouTube, you can just watch the horror. I cannot believe you're treated like that. And I just need to tell you how sorry I am that you got treated like that. That is so unacceptable that you had to go through that.
Thank
So
you.
when you go back, you
Yeah.
probably weren't skipping back in. Was this
No.
before or after you went for your run and to see your family that you went for your second session?
I canceled my trip, and I canceled my race. So basically day 1, 2, and 3 were all back to back. And then I had a weekend, and then my race was July 4th. And that happened to be on a Tuesday 2 years ago. So I had like 6 days before my race. Immediately after that first session, I walked to the car and burst into tears. It was entirely uncontrollable. I had no idea what was going on. And then once I got home, I was dropping things. I shattered one of my favorite mugs, instantly burst into tears. I tripped up the stairs. I tripped down the stairs. When I was placing a mug on the side table, it just fell down. I remember stacking strawberries and they just fell off and I burst into tears. A plate of food was given to me and I stared at the wall drooling for 2 hours before I made any coherent thoughts, but it was all slurred. There was no,
They
it
sent
was
you home
very,
like this? Like,
yes.
did you have a partner or a caregiver or someone there to, like, drive you home? I'm just trying to think of the logistics of how you got home safely and what they were willing to allow you to do by yourself.
Yeah, so fortunately for me, I did have my husband in the room, and he was also the one that drove me home. He was the one that handed me a plate of food, saw that I was drooling, staring at a wall, disassociated, like completely checked out. I've talked to other folks who say, and I was also told this as well, that it's completely safe. You can drive yourself home. You can go to work. You can go on a run. They told me that I would have 0 issues. So luckily I did have that support to get me to the house. However, we went the next day and we told them all my symptoms. They looked flabbergasted, but they didn't really say anything. And they're kind of like, well, okay, that's a little abnormal. Maybe you're just overly sensitive. Maybe it's a you thing. And I believed them.
Were you
Because
just
I
hysterical? Were you too stressed? You're a woman, you know you can't handle stress. If you have ovaries,
right?
stress will make you so sick. You should really, like, quit that job, honey. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm so used to
No,
this discussion. It
you're
hurts my
s
soul.
it's everywhere. It is unfortunately not unique to TMS or my situation. So I call her the advanced tech. She kinda, like, stepped in and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna call the doctor, run this by her." The psychiatrist obviously wasn't in the office. She told me that she spoke to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist said that my symptoms were normal and I was just overly sensitive and I should continue. And my brain, because I had so much trauma and my amygdala was overactive and I was so fatigued, that it might hurt more and I just needed to get used to it. So I got talked into day 2 and day 3. Day 3, so this was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Day 3, they gave me a silk cap to help with the stimulation and burning in my skull. It is not a traditional blow to the head, as in, like, I physically hit and had whiplash, but energy is going in. A silk cap isn't going to stop that. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't even know how to hold half of this, but you did say that you had, like, a storm inside your head, you're disassociating, you're drooling for hours just staring at food, and
Hmm.
somehow they thought you could drive yourself home and go back to work.
Yeah. Right.
And now you've told them that you've had to cancel, like, things that you've really looked forward to, which is usually, like, at least with my experience with medical professionals, once you, like, start canceling things you've been looking forward to and are excited about, that's when they start kind of taking it a little more seriously and they're like, oh, okay, this isn't just a thing. But they take that as a let's move forward faster,
Yeah.
harder. At what point did you feel like something was wrong? Like, this is not normal. This is not going to get better as I keep doing more of it.
Yeah. So day 3 was Friday. And then I had a weekend. I kind of talked myself into, okay, maybe this 2 days will make me feel better. It wasn't until I showed up to the marathon in excruciating pain, but when you train that much and your body is in that much shape, you crave running even on your off days. I mean, it's like a part of you. So I showed up, I had my music, I did my stretches, my neck was on fire, like I could not move. Any jostling of my head sent me right back to the first session at 3 p.m. every day. It felt like I was receiving treatment even on Saturday and Sunday when I wasn't in the clinic. But I told myself I trained for 5 months. I don't want to give this up because I already had to call family and cancel. So I tried. And then I called my husband and my friends who were they ran half marathons, and they are going to meet me in the last 6 miles. And I called them. I said, I'm done. I can't. Please pick me up. I had this feeling that if I took one more step, my neck would snap. And I would be, the girl with the ribbon around her neck from one of the stories.
It's one of my favorite
Love
stories
it.
you tell in the dark. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that one. Yeah, I think we're probably fairly close in the generation, and
Oh,
that
yeah,
book
for sure.
ruined my entire childhood. Yes.
Oh, it did for me too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad
Still have
you
nightmares.
know what I'm talking about, because I'm like,
No,
it'd be awkward if you didn't.
I got you. I have your back there. I
I
totally remember that story.
so appreciate it. But that's what I felt like. And I told my husband and my friends, I said, I feel as though an elephant is sitting on my head. And if I do not stop, it's going to snap. And my friend was actually in PT school for her doctorate, and she saw me running a race before and she saw me run a race after. And she was like, you are tripping. Your gait is really heavy. You're so stiff at the top because your body's trying to protect you. She obviously noticed the slurring. And that was my sign that something in the past 3 days went horribly wrong. So quit that race, didn't finish. And then obviously I canceled entirely the trip to family. And it was, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I get better? What happened? And I ended up making a call to the psychiatrist to talk to her about what happened. And it was 11 days after my first treatment. I went to the ER before, and I did the proprioception test where you touch your nose. I was hitting myself. I was completely whiffing. They gave me tramadol and told me I just had a headache and to go home. And then when I talked to the psychiatrist, she started the meeting and said, well, how are treatments going? Meanwhile, I hadn't shown up for a week. And at that point, I was so over it. I was like, is this what gaslighting feels like? Medical gaslighting? I've heard about it. I've read about it. I know you've talked about it at length. So I was like, what? And I just went along with it. And then my husband stepped in and said, actually, doc, she hasn't shown up in a week. She's been slurring her words. Can you not tell? All these things. And she just started crying a little bit. And she said she had no idea. Her staff never alerted her on day one. And she was actually in Florida with her father, who was in the hospital in the ICU. And the staff elected to make the decision themselves to have me continue day 2 and day 3, even though they told me that they talked to her on the phone.
This almost sounds like one of those clinics where there's supposed to be a medical clinic and there's supposed to be a doctor who signs on, but they could be out of state, they could be out of country, and they still say that it's a doctor who's looking at. Is that
Yeah.
like the case for this? Was this like one of those private clinics that?
So it is a private clinic, and I recently learned, which I did not know, it is entirely a TMS clinic. She doesn't offer anything else. She doesn't do talk therapy.
That's what I
Happenstance.
was kind of gathering as you
Yep.
were talking.
Yeah, I had no idea. And again, I had no idea what psychiatry really was when I was recommended it. So when I looked it up, I literally just looked at somebody who was covered by insurance. And I don't know if she pays to be ranked on Psychology Today or what, but she was at the top.
Oh boy. I just want to like scream for you. So I'm having a hard time like remembering my questions because I'm like, why is this allowed? Oh my God. Because like the stuff you're talking about is the same stuff that like you're like just put medical spa. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the stuff you're doing with like where people are getting like, no, a doctor is here. And then you hear about these horrible things that happen. And it's the same thing just with a very intense medical procedure that's with your brain with very little oversight. This is really terrifying to me that this is allowed. Because if you're not in the psychology world, how would you know any of this? Like
Exactly.
and you're trusting what you're seeing and the sources that you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens from here? Do you go back for more, or at this point are the symptoms just too much? And Also, I'm horrified of what would happen to you if you didn't have an advocate. Like, what would
Yes.
have happened to you if you didn't have someone at the house or someone to like explain this to someone who is very invested in minimizing your symptoms?
Yeah, exactly. And fortunately, I perfect Google keystroke. I found Victims of TMS Action Group created by James Hall. And I instantly, before I even met with the psychiatrist, had a Zoom meeting with him. And he was so gracious to meet with me for a couple hours and to have him look at me in my face, whom he underwent 36 treatments before he quit. And I think he was only recommended 36, but he kept going. He was an ultra marathoner. He lived in the Pacific Northwest like I did. I mean, we just bonded on so much. To have somebody sit across from me and looking at him in the face and him having been recovered or recovering for 5 years, he told me, stop this, read all my articles in Mad in America. I talk about the marketing and toxicity. I talk about the symptoms, how they link to post-concussive syndrome, how they link to brain injuries. Oh, by the way, here are the 5 things that's helped me. You need a vestibular therapist. You need a physical therapist. You need to check this and this. He also is very, I think he had a lot of success and very proud of his water fasting. And so he talked about all the research he did with that and how our autonomic nervous system is so impacted that we start having gut issues and we need to limit our diet. And so for him, water fasting was fantastic. And he sent me all the articles he read about that. And so also not just internal, my family nucleus, but having him and the group as well was absolutely paramount. He told me to kind of stay away from kind of diving in too deep on Reddit or things like that, like focus on my healing. And I hunkered down. I believed him. I started to believe in myself, which was kind of
Mhm.
a beautiful thing. I went to my primary care. I told him everything. Of course, I was called Headache Girl for a year, but I just went every week and I said, these are my symptoms. I need a referral to this. That doctor didn't believe me. They said I was normal, abnormal. And I just kept going. And it wasn't until the 9-month mark, I had a neuro-optometrist tell me all my symptoms with my eyes and vision were um, very in line and correlated 100% to a brain injury. Then at 13 months, I saw a physical therapist who gave me all the brain injury testing, ticked every single box. I couldn't even count backwards, starting at 100 by sevens. Didn't even know how to use my fingers. I just didn't know I could ask for a calculator, nothing. It was just blank, white, and empty. And then the 16-month mark, I got officially diagnosed by MD, which was paramount because no one's going to believe a neuro-optometrist or whatever. Long story short, I think it was starting to get those people in the medical community. I know the medical community harmed me, but I know you know how important it is to be validated by somebody in the medical community too, because how else are you going to open doors? How else are you going to get the help that you need if somebody in those roles don't believe you or understand your symptoms and they can't say, well, that's just in your head or you must have an underlying condition. That's what I was told for months on end.
The power dynamics are so fucked.
Right?
It's it is gobsmacked. I just went through a whole issue with my pain clinics, and that's like that on steroids because the power dynamics are so screwed. And also to get the help you need for
Yeah.
anything, you need a diagnosis. Otherwise, you cannot get any of the like, if you need to get disability, you can't do that without a proper
Correct.
diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's, I don't know how you would work with the experiences that you were having. That is
Yeah.
just insane. And the invisible illness of it all. And, having ovaries and presenting as female definitely makes life
100%.
very entertaining when you are in pain and disabled in the medical world.
100%. I mean, I don't see anybody in a male walking in and being called headache man. I just,
Strangely, no, shocking. I know. It's wild. Like, my dad and I were both sick at the same time, and, like, he was offered entire candy stores worth of medicine, and I had visible dislocations. They're like, "Tylenol should be fine, right?" Tylenol good? Yeah.
Yeah, that the PCP that I went to, he was like, "Well, I have to rule out if it's a headache. So you have to try all the over counters. You have to try every other drug. I want you on steroids. I want you on this." And I was a
Because
lab
steroids
rat,
won't have any side effects or anything that wouldn't cause other issues or anything that they
right?
could point to and go, "Oh, that was the steroids."
Exactly. So I opted not to, and I lived with 2 years, a year and a half, I would say. The pain started going down by a year and a half with an 8 or 9 out of 10 on pain scale. It felt like sharp shooting pain. A knife was just sitting there. It was excruciating. But you're 100% right. If you don't get the diagnosis, unfortunately, no doors are opened. Even when I had paperwork and I went to neurologists, they said, absolutely no way. You have a headache. It's overstimulated. You'll be fine. Keep going. It just breaks my heart because it's not just TMS. It's not just my injury. It is so many people with even deeper struggles. And to experience it just makes me mad. Makes me
So at what point did
infuriated.
you decide that you're going to do a documentary and bring your story to the world? And what does that feel like, bring your story to the world?
So I was reached out to a few folks in our support group, and I started on Reddit because I was kind of tired of being attacked in the TMS communities for saying that my story wasn't valid, I wasn't real, and I'm just sitting at the computer, you know, complaining while everybody
Because you
else
have
that
nothing else to do with your life, right? Like,
exactly
what
is
are you doing? What else
100%.
would you want to do?
Right? That's 100% how it was phrased. And even more, they would say, well, the people that it worked for are just out living their life, so you don't hear all the negative stuff. And I think with that, and just to go back to James, he has spoken to Medicating Normal. He's spoken to the Taper Clinic and done interviews. And it wasn't until I got a pretty good headway on my healing and understanding about this injury and what healing modalities can help that I wanted to be vocal. I wanted to share my story. I wanted to more intimately talk to people who have been injured, and either if that's guiding them on how to continue their healing, if that's sharing to other people to avoid this type of pain and this treatment, which I hesitate to say treatment, that's kind of what got that passion and that fire to do something, whether it looks like a documentary right now, or if it looks like just doing a Q&A with people on a podcast or something. Is I've been slowly talking to the community to see who's willing to speak out. And unfortunately, so many people are so hurt because it affects deeply the central nervous system, the vagal nervous shot, the phrenic nervous shot. I mean, I can't eat a lot of things anymore without just feeling sick, and not being able to digest it properly or at all. I've just symptoms I've never experienced before. And so these people are too. And oh, by the way, I only did 3. So these people are also being talked into 36 or 56. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. It's in such the baby stages that, like, talking to someone like you is just kind of propelling me to do more and more advocacy.
What do you need from the community to help you through advocacy?
I
Not just your specific community with this issue, but like this goes out internationally. What kind of people do you need?
I would absolutely love just people to come in with an open mind. I don't know how or why TMS doesn't affect some people as much as it affects the people in our support group. I think that first and foremost, I would love to have somebody with some sort of scientific background that's willing to do a study on what happened, what is actually
Mm.
happening. I have SPECT images and MRAs that show damage to the cellular and vascular level. Something is happening. I would absolutely love that. And then just, I think first and foremost, just to go back to the understanding, because invisible illness, and not only an invisible illness, but how we were injured is so misunderstood, let alone not everybody understands TMS. And that is so incredibly isolating that I just think spreading the word, making it understood that, okay, this exists. And yes, there's a percentage that maybe either people don't understand that they're injured, they're trading symptoms for symptoms. I've met other people like that. They had such debilitating depression, but then they completely lost their memory, but their depression is gone. So they're good trading that. I mean, it's just the stories are all over the place. And I've really run into a wall with just being misunderstood. And I would
That's
love
so
that support.
frustrating. That alone is just that almost is enough to silence so many people is the fear of being misunderstood.
Absolutely. And I think that's why a lot of the 5,000 people in our group are silent.
Well,
They're
and then you're
just,
dealing with a brain injury, so it's even harder to communicate.
exactly. Yeah, I'm unfortunate that in the 2 years and the speech therapy I've gone through, the cognitive therapy, physical, vestibular, vision, all the things, I'm where I am now, and my pain is down, daily average 6 to 10, which is I'm floored about, but it's so funny. I mean,
I so know. I absolutely know. I was trying to explain to my husband that getting from a 10 down to a 9 was heaven.
yeah, it's crazy, but not everyone, we shouldn't live like that. We should all be understood and have the support, and somebody can fight to learn about what the heck happened. I mean, James has done a beautiful job, actually. He's dove into the physics, and so I just want scientific people to get behind it and do more studies.
So you have experiencing that I keep telling the wide world about, which is if you are not part of the disability and chronic illness community, you will eventually. You will either have a bad day, a bad medical experience, or you'll age into us. And I'm always intrigued and also horrified for you guys. I feel very lucky that I was frog in boiling water. I've been sick my whole life. It's a genetic disease. I got plenty of time to get used to this. I am so scared for all of you who get thrown into it because it's a skill set and it takes forever to learn it. What are some of the things you've learned about chronic illness, disability, chronic pain that you didn't know before?
I
And do you have any coping skills for those who will eventually
Yeah.
join us in this?
Yeah, I hope no more people, but I understand that that is very high possibility. So for me, I think it's an awareness that it is 24/7 and every day looks different. I absolutely love the spoon theory because it's so true. Some days a shower costs 6 spoons and that's all I have. And then some days it's 2 spoons and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I could do a shower and maybe 2 more things. Oh my goodness." So I think that understanding I didn't really realize. And that also helps me cope and to be gentle to myself that, hey, and this is a 6 spoon day, but one task is going to cost me 6, and that's okay. I think I have really poured myself too much into therapies to overdo it in the fear that if I don't get neuroplasticity and I don't heal, I could end up with Alzheimer's or dementia or some other debilitating brain issue because I've lost a section of my brain essentially. So I did too much. And then that caused me to pretty much sleep all day for 2 weeks straight once I had a little bit of a gap in insurance that I realized, oh my gosh, I was taking this too far. And so I've since have learned that pacing is really important. And I've always had lists in my head and I just was able to take it off. I know cleaning the house is going to take me this amount of time, walking the dogs, running, going to work, this, that, and the other. And oh, by the way, I want to do 10 more things. I had that list. I didn't need to write it down. I knew I could do it. And now I have to write it down and I have to say, this is going to take me double the amount of time and it's okay. And oh, by the way, I'd rather spend 30 minutes meditating, listen to Harry Potter music, something to calm my central nervous system down, somatic exercises, yoga, whatever, because that is going to make me better and heal that I kind of took for granted when I was able to run, when I could kind of do everything and then still sleep 8 hours and have, wake up sleepy, but still able to do life.
I absolutely do know. I'm just sort of like giggling as you're talking because I feel like there's so many of us who understand that hustle culture.
Hmm.
And I used to work in the Silicon Valley. So it
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
nonstop hustle. And not only do you need to kill it at work, you need to be in the gym, you need to be in shape, and then you also need to do yoga. You need to do the calmest, most biggest hustle you've ever like. There is this so weird, like cognitive dissonance in our world between the wellness industry and the hustle culture.
Mhm.
And those two I've found will tear at least it tore me in half. I can't speak to other people, but I feel especially someone who is a marathon runner,
Yeah.
um, is someone who's like really disciplined. You've learned how to be disciplined. And now that discipline might be the thing that can harm you more because
Mhm.
you'll keep throwing yourself at wellness, at the wall, at this new
Exactly.
therapy, and your body might be just craving like
Rest.
that quiet time. And you had said something about that in one of your blog posts. I did a very deep dive on your blog post, and
Thank
there
you.
I highly recommend, like, even if this isn't something you're dealing with, these blog posts are beautiful and they're very helpful for I think anyone trying to recover from hustle. I think that
Thank
you've
you.
done such a beautiful job of explaining different things. And we'll get to some of the quotes too, because I was like loving some of the quotes you were using. But you talked about how to exist in a loud world when you need gentleness.
Mhm.
You've given some really great examples of listening to your favorite books on tape. I'm still mad at J.K. Rowling because I love those Harry Potter books, and I'm so mad I can't enjoy them as much as I used to. Her
Yeah.
and Neil Gaiman, man, fuck both of them because I am so mad that I cannot enjoy my favorite things anymore. I'm more Night Circus at this point in time, and if she disappoints me, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But Night Circus is like my happy place.
Mhm.
So you talked about music. I believe that you're also very into yoga as well.
Mhm.
I've been a big fan of that gentle, slow, somatic movement. I have Ehlers-Danlos, so I find like those
Yeah.
slow movements help a lot with like releasing muscle, but not doing the vinyasa of, oh wow, my femur's across the room now.
Yeah.
That was not relaxing.
No.
So what are some of the different like you've already talked about some of the ways. I'm very touch grass. Even if I can't walk, just going outside and just I have a garden out there where I watch the butterflies and the
Yeah.
hummingbirds, which, after looking at the news tends to like
Calm me down.
reduce the stress.
Yeah.
I was gonna, like, move you into a discussion, and I don't know how you feel about that, so if you are like, "That's not something I wanna discuss," just tell me and we'll move right along.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you about family planning because that was something that you had put in your intake on your like, whether you are planning on having a family or not having a family, but what you're going through doesn't really have a prognosis. You don't really know what all the steps are gonna be, how you're gonna feel in the oncoming, and with any mental health journey, pregnancy is a huge strain on body, emotions, and just the body chemistry, your mind. Like
Yeah.
you could be a not depressed person, and oh, that would sorry, speaking from experience, so much fun.
Yeah. 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 So,
So, how do you plan when there's no prognosis? How are you thinking of family planning? And if that's something that you're like, that's too personal, we can just skip and move
oh my
on.
gosh, no, 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 I'm totally happy to share because I just feel like the human existence in of itself is about sharing, and if we're not open about what's going on, I mean, we're not going to help each other. We're not going to help each other grow and learn and maybe not repeat mistakes. So I'm
Mm.
totally happy to share. For me, it's not too intimate or needs to be behind closed doors. So yeah, I mean, you are right. I do not have an end date on this. I don't know. Like I said, days can take me out of hide for weeks, or I'm smooth sailing by two years now. So it's pretty intimidating because I don't know what pregnancy will bring. And I haven't found a neurologist that I trust nor that believes I have a brain injury, and I got one from TMS. So that's been an uphill battle. My first instinct really is I don't know. I have pride that I'm a female and this is kind of what we do and our bodies are built for it, but I also want to be very smart because I want to provide the best and I know that whatever the baby needs is going to take out of me, and that's my cholesterol that
For
I've
the
been
next 60 years, just letting
right?
you know.
Yeah, so the cholesterol, I have, issues with my dental teeth my teeth now because of TMS. They're cracking, my saliva has changed, which is very common for brain injuries, I've learned, but not well known. So I'm terrified for all of that, like my bone, my calcium, my cholesterol, all the things and more. So it kind of comes down to getting blood tests, going to a fertility clinic, just making sure everything that I can control is okay. And having those mindfulness moments that you just, asked about previously, anything that I can kind of do. And then outside of that, try not to control anymore. And if it doesn't feel right, it's not right anymore. But I mean, my husband and I made a pact to be married for 5 years, and then we would enjoy each other, and then we would start looking at that. Unfortunately, 5 years came when I was, 1 year injured. But I think for me, it has to come down to a little bit of belief and trust in our future. Otherwise, I don't think it is attainable, and I might scare myself too much to even try.
I cannot. It's so funny because everything you're saying is not specifically because you're injured. Like almost
Yeah.
everything you just said is like specifically someone who's used to having control, and if they just work hard enough, they can make the outcome different.
Yeah.
If you just like do the right things, you do the right stuff, you eat the right things, you run, you do these things. You seem to have led a very ordered life, and a life that's no shade at all. I'm so impressed. I was just really lucky I got sick so early that I realized that this body was just set on chaos mode, and I had
Yeah.
no control over anything ever. I found it much more relaxing in parenting, as like realizing I have zero control.
Yeah.
Really helped me, especially the teenage years and these 20s, these early 20s. So sorry, total tangent, but no
No, you're
control.
good.
That's helped me so much. And Elizabeth Gilbert, like her
Good.
quote of I have no favored outcome. I have been just repeating it over and over in my head. Because my son is now as old as I was when I had him, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd be good with like him having a goldfish. What was I doing? Oh my god! And it's just like everything he does. I'm so proud of him. He's such a great kid. He's such
Mhm.
an amazing person. My daughter, a little magical creature. But I swear, like half my life is just like biting my nails down to the quick, and then going, I can't have a precious outcome here. Like they're gonna do what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And like when you're talking about pregnancy, I'm like, oh my gosh, like those were all of my fears when I was going through it.
Mhm.
It's just that chaos of it all. And then you're living in a body that's not necessarily doing the things you told it to do. And now you're going
Yeah.
to add this new absolute set on random chaos, like where your hair can go curly, like something like as goofy and whimsical as that. And then like your
Yeah.
whole DNA can change. It's the idea that it's just like a thing that your body is meant to do, as you said, which I hear what you're saying, but also there's a lot of our bodies that weren't meant for this, and mine
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah.
wasn't. Like my OB at the end of my second pregnancy was like, "Please let me remove your tubes. You cannot do this. You shouldn't have done this. Like you shouldn't have even
Wow.
done this. Like you
Yeah.
can't do it again. You won't survive." So, while I hear what you're saying, I also think that little caveat needs to be put in there.
No, I 100% agree. I do believe that, like kind of, like I said, that blind faith isn't going to lead me through everything. I really do have to plan and make sure I'm good. But I can't let go of that desire. And one of the reasons I was encouraged to do TMS was to be a better future parent. So,
And I just I have so many thoughts on that. I don't think my thoughts are relevant at all in your decisions. I can tell you my critters are my absolute joy, but I will tell you that the chaos of pregnancy, of those early years, and definitely these teen years have been eye-opening.
yeah.
I am not bored. Let me put it that way. I am never bored. Not once am I bored. They make sure I am never bored. God, they're cute.
I mean, it
You
makes up
have
for all of it.
they make up for so much. Like, I have to tell you, like, my kid, he came over with his girlfriend, this weekend, and this is 70% of my life is here in this bed. This is almost all of my life. And
Hmm.
so to have him bring his girlfriend over, who I love and adore this woman, she is amazing. And I'm just sitting there on a Sunday night going, I'm so freaking lucky. Like, this is such incredible joy. My 20-something-year-old is here, and his girlfriend is here, and my daughter is here, my husband's here, and we're just having a great time chatting. And it was like, wow, all those nights crying my eyes out, all of that stress, all those fingernails gone. Somehow
This
we
is
ended
what
up
it was for.
here.
Yeah.
Here. And my kids are talking to each other. Oh my god, did not think that would happen for about 4 years. So it's just a nonstop. It's one of those roller coasters where you're like, I don't think I'm gonna survive. Wow, this is really nice. I like that.
Hmm.
What? It's just nonstop screaming and biting nails, and then little moments of like, oh,
Yeah.
They're very cute. That was way off topic. We're
You're
going to
good.
run back to topic because you touched on in one of your blog entries one of my deep passions. And it is granted a little more complicated in the last 2 years than it was when I first started getting very excited about it, which was 10 years ago. And that's technology and technology leveling the playing field for disability. I am almost embarrassed to say how excited I was for autonomous driving until some very small jumpy guy started coming in and deciding that we didn't need safety regulations with that. So anyway, not going to go off on that topic, I promise. But I'm really intrigued on what tools you use because AI is such a weird question mark, and most people don't actually understand the difference between like generative AI and AI as a tool. So if you could tell me some of your favorite uses of AI and the different technology tools that you use to help with brain
All the
injuries.
things. So and especially in the beginning, because I had word finding issues, I struggled with coherent sentences. AI was fantastic for me to basically brain dump a gobbledygook mess and say, please, put this in clear, coherent terms. And it would. And it did it better than me speaking that way and trying to have another human understand. The other thing is if I had doctor's appointments and I showed up to a lot of them myself and having notes, a lot of them wouldn't look at the notes. So to kind of have AI say, hey, I'm going to scan all of these in and I'm going to upload. Can you please just do a high level half pager that I can print out and just say here? And then, kind of have reference points that I can say, okay, this page or this doctor or whatever refer to this if they want more information. That was absolutely amazing. It streamlined a lot of my appointments when I had the brain fog and I couldn't think and everything was like, yeah, sure, okay. And then I would walk away with, oh my gosh, he just talked me into more steroids. But it helped, push push what I needed to get done, and that was fantastic. The other thing is I've worked with my speech therapy a lot recently on trying to plan and all the things that come into, for example, meal planning or cooking, and I used to work under a chef who's now my best friend, and I learned so much with her. And because of her, that used to be second nature. I didn't have to think going to the grocery store. I could look in the fridge and be like, oh, we have 6 random ingredients. Cool. I'll make a 5-course meal. Now I go to the grocery store and the noise, the lights, all the colors and things is just so overwhelming that I forget what I'm cooking. So now I go to AI and I say, hey, I've got these 6 ingredients. I don't really want to go to the grocery store today and I want to cook for 10 minutes. Give me a recipe. And I've used it. It's been fantastic. So
Is
things
that
like that.
ChatGPT or is there a different one you're using?
ChatGPT, I've used Grok just because it was recommended. And then somebody else, and I'll have to think about this one. Maybe it'll come hopefully before the end. But one of the folks in the brain injury community that I belong to, he uses it to talk and it transcribes for him. So he doesn't write because he can't. And I had struggle with that too. I forget how to spell now. And that's been a new symptom. Easy words like tropical. I'm like, what? Tea? That's all I got. So he introduced me to that, and that's super fantastic because it can text or email for you. And that was really cool. He invited me on Reddit and we started talking about our brain injuries and how we've healed. So yeah, there's that one. Hopefully it'll come because it's amazing. Yeah, and then ChatGPT. And then the other tools that I use, I have noise canceling headphones, which are amazing. I've worked with my neurooptometrist and I have all these different color lenses. I have magnets on the top of my lenses. I have a few different kinds and they just pop on and they're red, yellow. So red is for like bright lights if I'm outside. Yellow is for like fluorescent indoor lights. And then of course you can do like the blue light blocking on your phones
What
and
is that
things.
called? Is that something that people can look up or talk to their optometrist
Yeah,
about?
so
Because I've never heard of that and I'm obsessed right now.
yeah, absolutely. Few different things I learned from my PT. You could actually just go on Amazon or whatever and look at concussion lenses, and those are like concussion filters. Those will come in orange, rose, pink, and red tints. I got a pack for like $16, and then I ended up finding the one I liked. And because I have to wear glasses now, I cannot do my contacts anymore. I just had my optometrist do ones more seriously because I didn't want to have like sunglasses over glasses anymore. But yeah, those you can do on the cheap, and then obviously the others through your neurooptometrist. And there's a bunch of different wavelengths. I would recommend, depending on your symptoms, you could do what I did, which is buy them for $16, try them. You can also go to your neurooptometrist and get tested. That kind of helps, like wavelength wise, know what issues you have and how to minimize, that's what they're about. So love those. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I have like my craniosacral therapist and acupuncturist. He's dual. He recommended basically EMF blockers. And just because I have more sensitivities now, kind of having anything to kind of block the, electromagnetic energy emitting from our phones, our computers, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all the technology that kind of disrupted my sleep too. So you can get a cover, like a little silk pillowcase kind of cover for your modem. You can get one for your phone so that if you have an alarm on your phone, but you still want to sleep next to your phone, you just put it in its little pillowcase. Things like that, I think have been tremendously helpful for sometimes central nervous system issues. The idea of brain injury is just toning everything you can down.
So I have kidnapped you for almost an hour, and I would keep you so much longer. But I will close this out with,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
would love for you to talk about a quote you have on your website, and it's from Rumi, which I can never get enough of that. And it says, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself." And I wanted to see what you had to say about that, 'cause that seems like a quote that meant a lot to you, and I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely love it. And I think I've used it a few times, even before the injury and after. And I think it really speaks to me a lot more now because I have limitations and I have to protect myself and what I can do and how I show up for people. And my health and mental wellness is a priority. And what the last piece of changing myself is just that. In order to be the best version, I have to protect myself, my energy. Otherwise, it's the same, put your mask on in the airplane. I can't give without filling myself up first. And that's something I never did to the fullest that I'm doing now, because otherwise I'm going to be angry and cranky. And so I'd rather be the happy, jovial, fun loving spirit that I know I am. And that means changing me and that mindset of that go, go, go that you spoke so beautifully before, of our mindset of the hustle vibe. I'm changing that.
I'm really, really glad we got to have this conversation. I
Yes, thank
hope
you.
that through this or through whatever you need, you will get the people you need to get your story even further out there, and hopefully, like a documentary of some kind. We've been watching more and more exposés on these centers that are medical procedures that are supposed to be doctor led, and the doctor is not even in the building most of the time, or even in the state.
Yeah,
I think that, I'm hoping we're gonna get more class action lawsuits against things like this,
good,
because
good.
it sounds like a lot of you're talking about, like, some people have really good outcomes, other people don't, but you're talking about a very specific space that they need to be hitting,
Mhm.
and if you like, that takes a lot of skill and practice, and
100%.
that seems like it's very set on random on who you get to, like, this isn't like facial hair removal, like, this isn't aesthetics, like, this isn't like, where you kind of expect like someone who's just learning to come in and do something, and this is your brain that's getting electrocuted. You'd want someone who really like is a neurosurgeon. I would want a neurosurgeon doing this.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
not
yeah, me too.
want anything less than that. So I'm really hoping that you get the attention you need. So if you are listening to this, watching this, and you're like, I'm a class action lawyer and this is a case, or I am someone in Hollywood who would like to take this on, feel free to reach out to me directly and I will send it over to Jordan. And I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm really glad that you're here to show the red flags that you were not given. And I'm so sorry you weren't given those red flags. That was unacceptable, everything you went through.
Thank you. That means a lot. And I truly appreciate the energy we got to share today and just all the questions and the support and letting me, borrow your platform to share this story. I truly appreciate it. And this connection means the world to me. So thank you so much.
I'm so glad that we could do that for you. I hope you'll keep us updated on any
Absolutely.
new stuff that's going on. So everyone be kind, be gentle, and whatever it looks like to be fierce. We are trying to do 2 episodes a month now because if there's one thing I learned, it's I'm too sick to work. So I should absolutely up the amount of episodes I'm giving you guys. That's a thing that's happening. So more episodes, yay. And hopefully we'll get some interns to help with that. That'd be nice. So until next time, be kind, be gentle, and whatever it looks like to be fierce.